Imagine a single man, so powerful, so adored, that the leaders of his own country decided the only way to stop him was to kill him. This is the story of Julius Caesar, and how Rome, in a desperate attempt to save itself, ended up destroying its greatest leader and its own future. Let's travel back to March 15th, 44 BC. You might know this date as the Ides of March. At this moment, Rome wasn't an empire ruled by emperors. It was the most powerful republic the world had ever seen. And at the very heart of this republic was one man, Gaius Julius Caesar. He was a military genius, a brilliant politician, and a hero to the common people. He had conquered Gaul, expanding Rome's territory dramatically. He had triumphed over his great rival Pompey the Great in a brutal civil war. When he returned to Rome, he wasn't just a general, he was a living legend. The crowds adored him. They saw him as their champion, a leader who understood their struggles. But while the people cheered, the Senate trembled. To the old aristocratic families who ran Rome, Caesar's immense popularity and power were terrifying. They saw his ambition not as a strength for Rome, but as a threat to their own influence and the very fabric of the republic. Their fears seemed to be confirmed when, in early 44 BC, Caesar was declared dictator perpetuo, dictator for life, for a society that had overthrown its kings centuries earlier and prided itself on shared governance. This title was a slap in the face. Too many senators, it sounded like the death knell of the Roman Republic. They believed Caesar was just one step away from crowning himself king. This fear gave birth to a deadly conspiracy. A group of about 60 senators, men of wealth and influence, decided that they had to act. They weren't common criminals. They saw themselves as patriots, as liberators. The plot was led by two prominent figures, Marcus Junius, Brutus, and Gaius Cassius Longinus. Brutus, ironically, was a man Caesar considered a close friend, almost like a son. Their goal was tragically simple: assassinate Caesar to save the Republic from tyranny. They weren't just killing a man. They believed they were killing an idea, the idea of one-man rule. On the fateful morning of the Ides of March, the air was thick with tension. Caesar had received several warnings, both from his wife Calpurnia, who had a nightmare about his death, and from a soothsayer who had told him to beware the Ides of March. But Caesar, ever confident and dismissive of superstition, decided to go to the Senate meeting anyway. As he entered the Curia of Pompey, where the Senate was meeting, the trap was sprung. The conspirators crowded around him, pretending to present a petition. Then, the attack began. It was sudden, brutal, and shockingly personal. One senator pulled Caesar's toga from his shoulder, the signal to strike. The first knife plunged into his neck. He was surrounded, with nowhere to run. The senators, his peers, stabbed him again and again. In total, he suffered 23 stab wounds. The assassins probably thought their work was done. They had killed the tyrant. They expected the people of Rome to hail them as heroes. But they couldn't have been more wrong. The greatest irony of Caesar's assassination is that it achieved the exact opposite of what the conspirators intended. Instead of saving the Republic, his violent death plunged Rome into chaos. It didn't restore freedom, it unleashed a new wave of bloody civil wars. The power vacuum Caesar left behind wasn't filled by the Senate, but by a new generation of ambitious men, including Caesar's own adopted son, Octavian, and his loyal general, Mark Antony. For 13 more years, Rome tore itself apart. In the end, the Republic the conspirators had fought to preserve was utterly destroyed. When the dust settled, one man stood victorious: Octavian. He would soon take a new name, Augustus, and become Rome's very first emperor. The Republic was dead, and the Roman Empire had risen from its ashes. Caesar's assassination didn't prevent a king from ruling Rome. It directly paved the way for a long line of emperors, many of whom would wield far more absolute power than Caesar ever did. The act meant to stop tyranny, ended up creating it, and the Ides of March would be forever remembered, not as the day Rome was saved, but as the day it sealed its own fate. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the dramatic twists and turns of history, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories from the past. See you next time.